Hey, and welcome to The Weed Out, where we weed out the bullshit and talk about the nonsense happening in our backyard. My name's Spencer Fox Peterson. It's been a while since we've been with you. Good to be back. This week, we are focusing on some local activism and actions. As we all know, there's all these ICE raids going on all over the country, whether in LA or even sleepy little small cities like Worcester, Massachusetts. Technically the second biggest city in Massachusetts, but it's a small town feel. Everybody knows each other. I'm not even from Worcester, and I know that. But this week we have, in the past, we've had another guest from Worcester on, Bill Shaner. This week we're bringing on David Webb, somebody who has made some noise in Worcester, I would say. I will let them tell their story, but basically, long story short, David, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Weed Out.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
We're glad to have you on. And first of all, tell us your, who, what, where, when. Who are you?
So, it's been very difficult to kind of figure out the labels for my identity because, my business card says instigative journalism and socio-technological consulting. And that's because I have a background in technology. I have a framework of society. And I don't feel like I'm a journalist compared to actual journalists, but I also recognize that what I'm doing is journalism. And, I liked the idea of activist journalist, but that isn't that really, I don't embrace the label of activist because I don't know, I'm following, there's some level of sensationalism isn't the right word, but I'm not stuck on one cause. I am following my special interests in a pursuit of justice. And anyways, instigative journalist is, I finally got it posted after the Telegram asked me about it because I was actually really annoyed when I was assaulted last year. NBC and I think it was Boston 25 misquoted me on it and just said investigative journalist. And I'm many things, but an investigative journalist is not any of them.
Right.
Like that is a respected profession that requires way more work than I put into any of things I'm doing.
Right. There's plenty of people doing that great work all locally. Andrew Quamir, I don't know if you're familiar with Andrew's work. He has a Substack called The Mass Dump. Shout out, Andrew, if you're listening. Investigative journalism, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about instigative journalism. Is that what I heard, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And, of course, Fox 25 News, not known for their attention to detail, kind of like the Herald, more known for their sensationalism. I grew up with Fox 25. I very vividly remember the difference. Like, I went to school for communications for background, and I remember when I was like 10, the difference in how they reported versus even the CBS affiliate, like I could tell. So like you could see the future, like with, you ever see those master clips of all the local news owned by Sinclair? And they're like
compilations.
Yeah, and they're like all overlaid and they're all saying the same script. It's like that was the beginning of it, the Fox News opening affiliates. So yeah, fuck them is really and shout out or anti shout out to Mass Live, which is the same model. I fucking hate Mass Live.
Yeah, no, I'm so annoyed with them. Because of all my interactions with reporters, like there's some that I simply stopped responding to. And Mass Live, I've had to like block on 3 different, specific reporters. I wish they weren't so pay for play, and I also wish they cared more about reporting facts and stories than being sensational.
Straight up, once a day, if you go to their Twitter feed, they'll have just an ad for a Dunkin' Donuts. Like Dunkin' Donuts in East Longmeadow has a revamp, and it's an article. It's not just an ad, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing here, man? Like, you calling this news? What's that?
That's the state of journalism these days. It's that and things like the Worcester Guardian, which is, just the propaganda arm of our Chamber of Commerce.
Right. And just a bunch of cranks mad about young people's ideas, like it's so predictable. It's almost like the movie Footloose, it's just like, I can't believe this shit's still happening. It's crazy. Like, but
happening right in front of everyone.
Right. And people are busy and tired. And that's the reality. Like, and not to give anybody an out or excuse. That's just the truth. You work 40 hours plus a week to barely get by and then maybe not retire. I mean, the oligarchs of old figured out the balance. You know, these people are greedy as fuck. Like, if you make the robber barons look less greedy, I mean, even they caved and compromised. Not, you know, like the 40-hour week was a compromise. You know, if you think
Yes.
about it. So it's like, I don't think we could get those same compromises out of these people. That's why we shouldn't take them seriously. But yeah, they own the media. That's the, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist. It's just when you look
No,
at the facts, it's who's funding what. What are we supposed to do with that? You know?
yeah, no, it's not a conspiracy theory at this point. It's pretty well documented.
Right. So, anyways, I would like to get into more about what happened. Obviously, about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, was it Eureka Street in Worcester? There was an ICE action that prompted a community response, and a council member or somebody that works for the government, I can't remember their name, got arrested and charged, right?
Yeah, Councillor Haji got charged. So I'm sure you've heard of Luce, the network that's supporting, that's effectively the strongest opposition to ICE. And what they do is effectively they have verifiers. And so this solves the problem of, you know, if you just post a caravan of tinted vehicles, it causes panic. So they send one or two people out to, if necessary, interact with them, but effectively like walk up with the camera and say, hey, are you local police or not, to some level or another. And so I wasn't one of the initial verifiers. I was responding to something I saw on social media, and I showed up with other people. And it's so at this point, I have a great still from my GoPro that I need to post at some point, because like it shows my phone screen as I'm. This was when the GoPro was on my chest, and the phone screen shows the time. And so now that all the police reports are, all the police body camera footage is released, or it's still 35. I'm sorry, it might be 7 officers out of 35, if I'm not mistaken. But the timestamp is, I was there about 20-30 minutes before the Worcester Police Department showed up. And so the whole narrative is about how bad it got. And it didn't actually. I have multiple cameras. My background in this level of activism is a combination of two things, really. One, simply documenting the police on a really frequent basis. It's gotten to a point where, you know, if I walk up to them or I see them around, I will pull up my camera and document what they're doing. And more times than not, this has resulted. Not more times than not, but this has resulted in documenting a few different issues with Worcester. So there's that, and I've done a bunch of work with the Worcester Anti-Foreclosure Team, and what they do is help people who are victim of predatory lending, and my role in that has effectively been at the final stage, when once the courts are already kind of ignoring the paperwork and the banks have already bullshitted their way to get there, there's a man with a gun who shows up and tries to intimidate people out of the house. And there's a lot of specific rules they're supposed to follow. These are constables. They're not law enforcement. And anyways, so, you know, they're not allowed to touch you. They're not allowed to remove you. And some of them don't know this. Others don't care. But when there's a camera pointed at them, they tend to hold their thing more. So I show up at these things with 2 or 3 cameras and like a GoPro strapped to my chest, and then stand in front of a doorway and have a conversation with them about the laws they're supposed to be following and the ways that particular eviction is unlawful. And so it's not funny, but it wasn't actually with the Worcester Anti-Foreclosure Team. This was probably my first time doing it kind of myself. And there was someone else who was with me who came from my network, but someone had reached out to me because they've seen my social media that I do this. And they had received a eviction notice from Angel Santana, the constable I met my first time doing this, who threatened us with arrest of the Worcester Police Department. By the Worcester Police Department. I've got a good photo of like him standing there pointing, and then like the paddy wagon, or apparently I'm not supposed to call it that, the transport wagon, with the guy fiddling with the white zip cuffs in the front seat. Like, this was an intimidation tactic of the Worcester Police Department to get legal protesters to leave the front steps. This was the threat of force that he made. Anyways, he's not authorized. Anyway, so it was him again, and so I've at this point made a example out of him, and he knows he specifically can't fuck with any of us. So I'm a little less worried about that. And also, his notice was specifically use words that the city manager. Anyways, I was there that morning before the Eureka incident. I actually interacted with about 4 of the same fucking officers. Lieutenant Basalt, who was at the Eureka Street incident, was the one on scene at with Angel Santana. And I stopped an eviction beforehand, and then effectively was walking from that, caught up with someone else, and went to Eureka Street. So I already have a bag full of GoPros, a few cameras. So I'm effectively first. The way I do, I'm a toe step. I'm a line stepper. I toe the line, whatever. And that the purpose of that is helping other people identify where the line is. So I walk up, and one of the first things I figured out was that one of the guys who was there in completely plain clothes was 100% a cop based on the way he interacted with me. He literally told me about. He said, I don't know. They were all on a public sidewalk, and he told me about He said, that's our imaginary line. Because I asked him for clarification, like, where am I not supposed to be? And so I was climbing up over the lawn and to get an aerial view of kind of what was going on. And I attached my GoPro to someone's porch. And so then I have this footage for like 20 minutes of them interacting. It didn't actually escalate at all until they... And so keep in mind, none of us actually spoke Spanish. So we couldn't communicate with these people. And like, so there was like 5, sorry, I think it was 6, but there was a number of, there was Ice, that guy in the t-shirt, it was a National Parks shirt. And he had a handcuff bulge and a very clear gun bulge, but literally no badge, no 3-letter anything. There was just them. And then they were standing around a car with 3 women in the passenger seat, one of which was the infant. And so no one was communicating. So we're at that point. So it's worth acknowledging, Counselor Hagi was the first person to actually talk to these people, and Ash Spring provided their phone to Ash Spring is the other one, the other person who was arrested for assault with the dangerous unknown liquid that they smelled and identified as water on the body camera footage that has been released. But Ash Spring gave them their phone for translation, and minutes later, Attell is asking the law enforcement, presumably, like, this is still, it's worth acknowledging, I've confirmed through public records that the Worcester doesn't have a record of confirming that these people were in fact ICE. Right. I happen to know that they were because I saw them. I've seen footage that happened shortly after this of them. I don't know exactly why or what, but the woman they removed in the unmarked van was brought in an ambulance to the federal courthouse about 20 minutes afterwards. So I don't know what happened in that time. But the federal courthouse in Worcester is right next to an apartment building with a lot of windows, and someone who had upsettingly good, like, I'm like, I need to ask them what kind of phone they have because their Zoom was incredible. But someone sent me a video of them, and I asked when it was, and it was literally 20 minutes after we saw that SUV, the tinted out New York plate vehicle leave Eureka Street.
Is it possible she had like a heart attack or something? Most likely, it's
incredibly possible that there. Yeah, I don't know.
Why would she go? Why would they go to the courthouse in an ambulance? That doesn't make any sense either.
It was weird. But it was also notably the same people. Like you could see from the video that it was the same agents we had just, like, there was that plainclothes guy in the Yosemite. I think it might have been Yellowstone, but I think it was a Yosemite shirt. Anyways, so I was documenting this, and it's also, so I stood in front of them, and this was, it was kind of, it's not funny, but like, I was both of the first fucking contacts with ICE. One, I accidentally, my backpack bumped one of them, and then I was holding out my GoPro and my phone in outstretched arms, and the lead asshole walked his head. He was texting on his phone, walked into my hand, so like you could see my GoPro go up, and he says, "Get that guy, he just hit me," to his other one. And so I loudly say, "No, I didn't. My hands were firm. He walked into me. It's on video. We all saw it." And I think that guy actively in that moment decided, I'm not here to arrest this white dude. I'm here for that brown one. Like, right. It was very much he was not about to start arresting people who hadn't actually done anything wrong on so many different cameras. Right. And but also, like, you know, the fact that he said that guy hit me when my arm hadn't moved, like, this was on a lot of different cameras, including the one that it was in the hand he hit. So they are already zero respect. Right. Sorry. That's where I got sidetracked. Counselor Hajai asked those guys if she's been allowed to leave for the bathroom and if we can change the baby's diaper and start figuring out. And that's kind of when they began to get like, shit, we need to actually do something about this. I think, and I don't, this is entirely unconfirmed. So there's like two reasons why they were waiting for that fucking long before doing anything. Like why there was a family detained on the side of the street without being arrested, without any form of communication, without identifying themselves, without allowing them to go to the bathroom or change their baby's diaper. Because like they had already been there for over an hour by the time like people started showing up, and I was there like 20. So they'd been there for about 2 hours. By the time the Worcester Police Department showed up, these women had been there for over 2 hours without access. And keep in mind, one of them had just given birth like in the past few months. Mm-hmm. Like really fucking needed to pee at best. Right. And so that was what I kind of realized that dynamic changed from a bunch of, you know, activists and bystanders to concerned mothers. And I'm obviously not under that category, but I watched that, you know, I felt my like
your parental instinct kicked in.
I don't know.
You hear a baby cry, you like want to soothe it, you know.
There was a enraged sense of injustice in that moment that, you know, I'm not a mother, I'm not a parent, and I'm never going to be, but you know, that went from us observing a potentially concerning law enforcement interaction to us observing an injustice.
Right.
All of us, everyone there, and I was one of the few people who wasn't a mother or grandmother. Like that's the other thing worth acknowledging. This crowd, I was one of like 3 white men, and everyone else was pretty much either a grandmother or a mother. There was, it was not an intimate. And so,
unfortunately, this is the language our oppressors speak. It sucks, but like they see women as something needing to be protected. So like, if this was a bunch of dudes, a bunch of workers, it would be potentially looked a little like, say they came down to the fishing docks where I work. And there's a whole bunch of undocumented. If we stood up to them, it looks a whole lot different. And we probably don't have fucking cameras either because we're working. I'm just thinking about this out loud. Sorry for my ADHD ramble. But, you know, the idea of body cams, like, A, these fucking assholes get to control the data. Fuck that. Second of all, the point of view is from their chest. So everything looks like an attack, like everything. It's just the way it's framed, and they're taught how to act. They say contradicting commands. You don't know what their arms are doing. You know, like I fucking hate body cameras. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them because the only time we get any sort of justice with camera footage, it's third party, whether it's somebody like you or it's a fucking light pole that somebody catches, like in Tyree Nichols' case. You know what I mean? Because that body camera image makes it look like the guy's fighting back. No, he's defending himself.
Yeah, no, that's why I started bringing cameras everywhere. Right. I realized, you know, even if they gave us the footage, it would be designed and it would be done in a way to support their narrative.
And they control the data. Then we have to spend time making sure they didn't cut anything out. We have to have forensics backgrounds to figure out what the fuck, like this Karen Reed shit. Like I don't really get into the Karen Reed stuff, but like they're manipulating fucking. They're racing footage. Like the amount of work you have to go in as a defense attorney to figure this shit out. And you don't have the power of state subpoena. Like, it's rigged. It's absolutely rigged. Anyways.
Yep.
Carry on with your story.
Yeah.
The importance of third-party cameras.
Yeah, no, exactly. The importance of third-party cameras and showing what happened from an external position, because if it's only their body. And so that's the other thing. 2 of the initial ICE agents who were there did have body cameras. I don't think either were on. I think I heard one activate like at one point, but I don't think the lead agent had his on at any point in time.
It was malfunctioning. That's a malfunction.
Well, so I was actually like the first thing I asked him when I approached them was, so I can get the record of that. And he was like, yeah, if you want. And I should have fucking looked and seen, because they had the same ones police have. You know, it says the 3 red lights if it's on, and it wasn't. So I don't know. I should have pointed to that. Anyways, so, you know, things, so it's worth noting about 4 to 8, I don't actually know, but a significant number of additional federal agents, presumably, again, like some of these people, all of these ones were in gear, and one of them had an AR-15, but none of the, and a few of them had masks. Up until the additional people arrived, no one there had masks yet. Yeah. And so that was after. So that happened, and then like I'd say they arrived like within 30, 45 seconds before the Worcester Police Department arrived. Like I didn't realize that that more had shown up until like going through the footage afterwards, because it was suddenly there was this many, and now there's a lot more, and then all the Worcester. So it felt like the Worcester Police Department and all the additional feds arrived at the same time. And the sorry, so the first officer on scene arrived. Like I've been looking at photos like of him of me. I was standing over the scene in the back, and of him arriving, and like the crowd, there is no angry crowd. Like the whole narrative, frankly, Patrick Hanlon, that was his name. If Worcester was smart, it would have pinned this whole fucking mess on Patrick Hanlon. The first officer on scene arrived, failed to identify who was who.
Is that a Worcester? That's a Worcester PD? Just to be clear. Okay.
Yep. Patrick Hanlon's the Worcester Police Department officer who was the first on scene. Okay. He immediately went to assisting ICE. I believe he's one of the people Councillor Hadji is accused of assaulting. It's all ridiculous, but he, his response was the initial problem. Like he showed up, he supported the other presumed law enforcement, did not bother. Like the problem is they cannot claim they did not assist when they showed up and immediately assisted.
Right.
I wanted them to kind of skip to afterwards. I took a photo. So one of the other things I did while this was all happening is walking up to the approaching police officers, reading out their names out loud and saying, were you called in response to ICE? And I didn't realize how incredible that was going to be until later, but now it's in every single one of the fucking body camera footages. So they can't, not every single one, but in many of them. So they can't actually deny that they, there's no question about what was happening when they got here. So they have all that, and also so they get to see, that like there's the white man is on the edge asking them for accountability before they do anything. And then there's the crowd of women. Right. Afterwards, I go up and I'm walking and I see all of them like sitting near their cars, blocking off Eureka Street. And I take a pic. I'm have my camera out, and so they start to go away because they know they don't want to be in those pictures. And I also, at this point, I'm acutely aware that like no matter how important it is to share the narrative, what just happened, like this is it had just turned into a protest rules apply. I have to be careful not to post people's faces or etc. and try to see what the thing is. So I had to get a picture without the people, but with the cops, and so I did. I took a picture and I said that the Worcester Police Department just did exactly what Eric Batista and Mayor Petty promised us they wouldn't. They assisted ICE in a warrantless arrest of someone who was here and had done nothing wrong. And this was so that the importance of this is, one, it got like 400 shares, but it was one of the first like conversation starters saying this is exactly what happened. And I assume you've seen V for Vendetta.
Yes.
You know the scene where the inspector's like, I had a feeling, I knew how everything was going to play out.
Sure.
I had one of those. Eric Batista, the Worcester city manager, is going to do the only thing he knows how. He's going to lie. And and so like I'm not new to any of these dynamics. Like that's part of what's weird for this is to me is like I had my car repossessed a bit ago. The people assaulted me. It's illegal for a bunch of different reasons. Worcester Police Department, of course, supported them, and then actually came back 2 hours later with the people who assaulted me while I was in the hospital. And anyways,
they asked you to charge them or drop charges. What was the result of that?
No,
the hospital.
The Worcester Police Department. Oh, sorry, the Worcester Police Department. So the first time, April 15th, the Worcester Police Department decided to issue reciprocal assault charges. So I'm charged with assault with a dangerous weapon,
Jesus Christ,
which is a crock, and he is charged with assault with a dangerous weapon for assaulting me while attempting to repossess my vehicle. So so where I'm going with this is the police officer's first concern when they arrived on scene was getting me to exit my vehicle.
Right.
so that they could complete the repossession. Now, this is the same thing I have seen with constables. Police will say they're there to preserve the peace, but
Right.
what they're actually, and what that really comes down to is they're there to support the constable in in his whatever, and they expect. And this was great because I had this conversation with Lieutenant Basalt before the Eureka incident. So
Right.
their position is effectively, well, if this is unlawful, they can argue that in court. Lieutenant Basalt, 2 hours before, maybe an hour and a half before before we were interacting on Eureka Street, effectively argued to me that this person should be allowed to be removed from her. Removed is but whatever, that this constable can show up, and regardless of how unlawful the process up until this point is, because this constable has the power and a judge has said this, that this person should be able to be removed and then fight that afterwards in court. As if anyone is going to be able to fight that in court, even if they're not homeless.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So
well, excuse me. I just want to tie through. Notice the police are more concerned about property, and they consider citizens property. That's why ICE exists. They consider, so even if you're a free citizen, that's why this whole argument about who has due process. The reason the courts in the more liberal times decided like 100 years ago that everybody gets due process is because then we're going to start splitting hairs about what's a civilian, right? And this is where we're at now. Like it's devolved to the point where we're splitting hairs about what is a civilian, and we're all human beings, and we all have right to prosperity, liberty, yada yada, all that bullshit, right? But it's not bullshit. I actually believe it, but they treat it like it's bullshit. And yeah, the cops are here to protect property. Look, repossessed car, repossessed home. They only care about property. They do not care. They are not our friends.
So that is exactly where I'm going with this, is that if you take a step back from how horrible this sounds, but recognize that the Worcester Police Department treats immigrants as property of ICE, right, then their behavior here makes perfect sense. Because in the same way, so the way that constables and the way that the Worcester Police Department will support, not just the Worcester Police Department, the way police support constables and repo drivers systematically and habitually has created an environment where a repo driver will try and pull me by my shoulders out of the vehicle because he knows that if the police get there, they will then support them so long as I'm inside of the vehicle already. In the same way, a constable might show up and threaten someone to leaving their property because as soon as, whatever happens, if there's an assault and that person is not in the property by the time the police get there, that house is now repossessed by not repossessed, but they've served.
Whatever.
Yeah. So
evicted.
Evicted. So, and then of course they can fight this afterwards. In the same thing, like now there is someone being put into an unmarked vehicle in New York going to who knows where. Unmarked vehicle with out-of-state plates by armed people, some of which have masks now, going to who knows where. The police, generally speaking, don't really care so long as they're already in the possession of ICE.
Right.
Now, here's part of the problem with this. Like, even you taking aside that horrible, problematic position that they take with property that they somehow include immigrants in, the person wasn't in the in the custody of ICE when they arrived. They could have protected Worcester people. They could have said, "Wait a second, can I see some ID before I assist you in this kidnapping?" Like, I don't know what level of they're supposed to assess the scene, but they could. Anyway. So
no, it's fascist. It's a game of hot potato. They're always passing accountability to it. That's why it's so funny when like some leader comes along and wants to funnel everything, all law enforcement, into one funnel. No, the genius of the system is that it's decentralized. And it's proof product that decentralization in general, whether it's rebellion, revolution, or it is fascist authoritarianism, decentralized works pretty good because you can always have another department. Like, okay, a department's found to be a piece of shit. They'll just give more responsibility to the state police and give them more budget. The money still stays within policing. And those assholes that work for that department can always quit and apply somewhere else. Like, there's always money. There's always money in the banana stand for police.
Well, so that's exactly. There's like
it's a shell game. It's a shell game. They move there, and that's how they. It's like when you brought up the city manager. What I was thinking, you're like, he does what he always does. You said lie, but I was thinking, who's in charge here? Is it the council and the executive branch, who's technically in charge of law enforcement? Who wags the dog here? Because in Holyoke, what the police want, the police get. And when they're not getting their way, they pull temper tantrums with WWLP and Mass Live. And then some council will grandstand for 2 hours. They actually had to pass a rule about grandstanding, like, because it was a gentleman's agreement prior. But like, basically, like, you can't do this anymore. And the government's actually been a lot more efficient this cycle. But overall, like, this is the MO. And then they have their goons show up in force, yada, 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 and they get what they want. And who's running the show here? And the police don't even want to say they're running the show. They pass off to, well, that's the FBI's deal.
Yeah,
that's
so
the DEA's deal. That's the ATF. We have a squad that overlaps, but like, you know, we don't know what's going on because of OPSEC. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing here? You're not at war.
But for them, it kind of it's not for them. They are, but you know, there's a constant.
If they need to defend war, damn.
Yeah. So the reason this kind of ties it all together. So first and foremost, Worcester is very much dealing with the same kind of who's in charge, who the fuck orders the police department around. I was recently removed for being disruptive during the city manager's State of the City address. And this was from a private theater that had an agreement that included police not being welcome into it. And they were led into it by the city manager's chief of staff, Amy Peterson. And this is notable because the facility did not want police there. They did not call for police. And the city manager's chief of staff still led the SWAT team in. And so, you know, there's a level of who's actually in charge. And people are like, wait a second. So, you know, someone on one of my posts was like, well, what does Saucier think of this use of the SWAT team? And I was like, you know what? He probably didn't get a say in this matter. This came from over his head. And, you know, I'm getting to start those conversations about who's actually in charge. We also have a so-called safety committee, which is supposed to oversee the police department and make sure it's doing its job. But they, of course, don't think. Oh, my God. Right. They don't actually.
Don't get me started. We actually disbanded our safety committee. In
oh my God. You know, that
it wasn't doing it. It's actually like, at least we took the mask off here in Springfield. Sometimes my wife, shout out Bridget, she sits in on the Springfield ones. Just like when she's like on some call, you know, some sort of forum, and hey, we need somebody to go. And, you know, sometimes she sits in, and it's just like, she's like, it's so pointless. I mean, it's good that we're, she's like, I can't decide. And I agree with that. I can't decide what's worse. Like, I can't, because like, I'm just like, even when you find a flaw, they like fight you tooth and nail. It costs so much money, and they get endless coffers because these people like Gary Rome or any local car dealer or any local business or business chamber of commerce, like you were mentioning earlier in Worcester, Northampton's got their little cartel up there too, and I'm sure Holyoke does too. I don't know as much about it, but yeah, they all fund the police benevolent associations. And that's where they get their resources at time to go show a force at city council meetings and get their wives to call in and complain.
Pay attention to the police union drama currently going on in Worcester, like today or yesterday, rather.
What day? Every day?
No. There's specific new stuff. Okay, so this Worcester, shout out Tom Marino, posted a really great article that effectively outlined that the president of the police union had a screaming match with the chief of police that resulted in Councillor Hadji being charged after the Department of Justice informed him that they were not proceeding with charges. And so Tom Marino's article was good. Tom Marino's well-known, well-respected, has a relationship with a lot of different organizations and affiliations in Worcester. The Worcester Police Department, from their social media, posted saying, like, without naming what this week in Worcester, posted denying it, saying in a letter signed by like four of the five deputy chiefs, the chief and the director of the president of the police union, asking Tom Marino to retract his story. And you know, he responded in the comments saying, "This is my story. We haven't retracted anything since we've started, and we're not about to now. We stand by our reporting," as he fucking should. But like, what's great is this is further unmasking and unveiling the power dynamics and the problematic, like, you know, the real. I don't think the chief is in charge. I think Tom Duffy is actually in charge, and that's the problem. Is the police unions have all the fucking power over not just the people but the administration.
Right. But ultimately, and I want to just always, this is my little thing. Ultimately, it's the capitalists who are manipulating these benevolent associations, these sheriffs, these power players, these like the woman in New York, Jessica Tisch. She's the police commissioner. She's a billionaire's daughter, and she's the one that's like going after Luigi.
Oh, yeah, that checks out.
And she is like, if you look at her background, like her family's gotten their money in her name's Jessica Tisch. Her dad is something Tisch, and they have gotten their money in the most disgusting ways. Like, of course, like, healthcare and shit, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh my God, like this is so naked. Like you're not even hiding it. That who pulls the strings of the armed forces?
People, and then they're okay with this. It's weird.
Then the theater of the politics, and then you start sounding like a crank. But it's true. I mean, it's the money that drives us. And everybody in my personal life thinks I'm joking when I talk about car dealers, but they're like the devil. Like they're the ones.
No, I agree.
They fund like the rubber lobby. They're the ones that are the ones that organize against public transportation. Rubber lobby is why we have fucking highways, like, and all that shit. If you look into the history of the highway system, and then of course it's incredibly segregated and racist. Like, oh yeah, like it's just so evil. And like the fact that your neighborhood like Ford and Toyota dealer is really the big bad, like, like on the local level, like they're ghouls, man, and they're always involved with the Chamber of Commerce. Look at all the overlap, all the things that causes problems, at least what I consider a problem. But anyway, sorry to take all the air up. I just want to follow up. So how did we get from, you have all this footage, obviously, and then you have the department and the government kind of coming out against this other reporter who's more mainstream, sounds like a little more not radical, pretty cut and dry guy. Yeah, he's pretty cut and dry, it sounds like, from what I've seen of him. And what I am hearing is how did you get the cease and desist? and how did this like devolve into that? So like, and why you? And there's other loudmouths in Worcester, I know there is. So like, how did this happen to you specifically?
So I would say it has to be the quantity of emails, but what it really comes down to is, so one, they combined it with the no trespassing order. It wasn't just a cease and desist. I got a cease and desist and no trespassing. So separate.
So you can't go to City Hall.
So the SWAT officer told me I couldn't go to the Common.
What?
Yes. I was the person, Eric Batista's process servers, aka Special Weapons and Tactical, told me I could not go to the Common when they tried to hand me the no trespassing order. They elaborated that include the sidewalks around City Hall, the front and back plaza, and I was like, wait a second, where does the back plaza end? And they're like, no, he specifically used the word Common. So I'm probably going to have a ridiculously good civil rights lawsuit over this. But let's focus on the cease and desist, because the no trespassing from City Hall is, of course, probably related. The real answer is because Tom Moreno doesn't walk around with a camera asking people for quotes. He sends emails and makes phone calls. And I have walked up to the city solicitor and asked her for comments on things that, she's not going to give me any information on, but it still looks bad for her to say no comment. And the same and I walked up to Amy Peterson and Eric Batista at a Chamber of Commerce event and asked them if they had any comment about sending the SWAT team into a theater they didn't have permission to enter. And so then, but also my public records requests. So I have been seeking the body camera footage from the officer who decided to charge both of us with assault when I didn't. I effectively was like, wait a second, he's accusing me of assault. Well, I'm gonna stop talking to you, and you can do whatever you need to, but I'm not exiting this vehicle. And he was like, well, I'm going to charge both of you with assault then. And I'm like, anyways, I wanted his body camera footage. And the city, that was April 15th. I think I filed that like April 17th or 18th. They're supposed to get it to me in 10 days. Where I'm going with this is, I stopped by the office, the law department twice. The first time, I was talking with a friend. Both of these are, of course, recorded, which is part of what's so great about this. The first one, it's like a 20-minute video on YouTube, and it ends with the Worcester Municipal Security accusing me of harassing the law department outright saying, I say, wait a second, I'm not harassing them. He says, that's your opinion. And I said, okay, but that fact that I am harassing them is their opinion. And he said, yeah, but they work for the city, and so their opinion matters. Like, this is a conversation with the new Worcester Municipal Security that is implemented to prevent, we can call it to prevent First Amendment auditors, but they're really to keep the unhoused people out of City Hall. And it's going to be, I think the real reason they want them is to minimize the public records requests that are accessible. I've started asking how many people have been charged with trespassing that have an address of 25 Queen Street at City Hall, and those are the patterns that they don't want people to. So I've become very persistent. The morning I got that letter, I did. So there's three things that I think are the reasons that they're going to do this outside of my actual behavior of the First Amendment auditing. One, I started using a script that addresses, I cited State Department of Supervisor record determinations, and I have a script that effectively preemptively addresses all of the SCSI tactics they use to avoid providing answers to public records requests. And I sent my first one that Tuesday morning, and one of the phrases in it is, in consideration of this continuous pattern, blah, 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 I am not presuming good faith, and I will appeal this to the state supervisor of records on the 11th day if a response is not provided within compliance with law, or an unreasonable fee is assessed. And so effectively, I am preemptively addressing their SCSI tactics in a way that really, so I guess what it really comes down to is I think it's a legal tactic because they need to argue that I am harassing them because that is their best argument to not provide the records that I have been asking for. So that's one thing. That whole thing is, because I use the phrase good faith, that means now going forward, if they can't show that I'm acting in bad faith, they know that I'm going to be using that against them. So that's one thing. Two, physically stopping by the law department and saying, I will stop by again this afternoon. I think they're going to claim they feel threatened by that, but I'm following up on records that they are actually withholding. And then this is probably the killer. I've been hosting a community town hall Tuesdays behind City Hall. So an hour after they gave me that notice, I was going to be hosting a group of who knows how many people. And I had specifically refused to get an expressive permits request. They thought I was trying to do a rally or a protest, and I'm not. And also I didn't anticipate more than 50 people, so it didn't qualify for the thing they wanted me to get anyways. But I specifically told the special events department, I am not filing for this. I'm not requesting this. I appreciate that you have improved the system. However, historically, utilizing this has not ensured that other communities have access to power or bathrooms. And as such, I am not seeking assistance with this facilities for you. As a courtesy, I still gave them the agenda. I wasn't trying to keep the information from them. But I effectively was refusing to follow city protocol for hosting a meeting in the common behind City Hall. And so they gave me this. So and keep in mind, the whole purpose of that was democracy outside of the city, empowering everyone to have conversations with each other instead of, it was effectively recognizing and acknowledging that speaking to the city council hasn't, it doesn't matter if they seem like they're listening, it doesn't actually get results. I think we can get more results talking with each other, and they're terrified of that. So I think it's a combination of how actually effective I've been, that they need to create a legal argument that I have been if they can't show that I'm harassing them, then they have to admit why they have been withholding records, and they can't do that because the reason they've been withholding records is because those records make them look really bad.
So I just want to point out, kudos to y'all, all y'all, that you're a perfect guest for the show. We're called The Weed Out. I mean, a lot of people think it has to do with marijuana, which obviously I like to smoke marijuana, but has nothing to do with that. It has to do with weeding out the bullshit, cleaning out your garden. And we see as a community that if we come together in the common and the garden is a lot easier to take care of when we all do a little bit, or at least we're all paying attention, because someday I'm going to be old and I can't bend over to pick out, to pluck the weeds, but I can say, oh, this time of year, it's hard to manage this area, to make a gardening analogy. But and I can share my knowledge when I'm older, but now I'm an able-bodied person and I should be bending over to pick up the weeds. And alternatively, they see us as a weed.
Yeah.
They see us and by us I just mean anybody that's coming together with local communities, because they want us thinking this all gets solved at a federal level, and it just won't, because we're going to have to be the ones that do the down, you know, in your neighborhood. So the trash still needs to be picked up, the water still needs to be taken care of.
Yep.
You know, it's like that's really how you have a healthy society. You take care of basic needs, and a lot of it will flow from there. And it seems kind of comically simple. But
Yeah.
it does. So I've obviously never had much faith in looking at these big federal or even big global institutions. They can be aspirational, sure, but like it comes down to us. We have to hold each other accountable, because even in utopia, there's always going to be issues. There's going to be conflicts, and we have to have a way to de-escalate and work through it. But we have to come together in a common space,
yeah,
and discuss. And it's unfortunately the best things are done through committee. It's painful, it's hard.
I think part of the problem is that, like,
maybe not painful, but it's hard.
No, but the systems of bureaucracy in our city seem to be designed to frustrate progress rather than create it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you know, it's when I say to people all the time, like, if you just voted this way, we wouldn't. It's like, well, we have to still do the day-to-day, like, existing together and co-work, and then, like, we have to realize it's all of us, but it's not, we can't look to outside help. But like this idea that the system is going to give us a tool to change it is kind of like magical thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we can't, you know, harm reduction. I know that's kind of a burnt out phrase, especially when it comes to electoral politics. But like, that's the best it can do. Like, I don't know. We have to do the work on the ground, and it's long and hard. And it's people like what you are doing and other people in your community that inspire you. I'm sure there's plenty. You could spend a whole day listing people that inspire you.
I should start with specifically two, because Councillor Hajai is one of them, but Councillor Wynn as well was posting snippets from the city meetings showing why they couldn't get things done. Like, it was little exchanges where where the clerk or the city manager or the city solicitor, it was what I eventually came to call, which is, it's great you already called this out, but it's a accountability hot potato. And it usually ends with the solicitor, but I started to realize, like, I can highlight these patterns, I can show why we're not getting progress, and I can use that to get more people to pay attention. And it turns out I was very right.
Yeah, and this is kind of like I'm glad, like, you've, like, it's funny that you have like I have local cops that are my nemesis, and I know them by name, whether in Northampton or in Holyoke. I know them by name and face. But you know, it's funny that you didn't focus too much time. Like, clearly you're intimate with one of these guys, and the thing is, it's not one person. So like the whole accountability hot potato. That's what's so funny about everybody passing the hot potato. It's like, yo, this is a collective issue. It's not any one person's fault. And I don't even want to presume you're evil. But what makes me feel like you're evil is when you won't come to terms with what your work,
so that's
the results of your work create. Like, you got to come to terms with the fact that there are inadequacies and there are inequalities. You're kind of the one that's supposed to be the one addressing that shit. You want the job.
And so I'm not afraid to make it personal in regards to, like, not, you know, about them personally, but about their values. Right. And I think that is part of why my emails have been so impactful, is because, you know, I sent one to the city manager Batista like last year that was something like, I hope you're a Spider-Man fan. And I talked to him about how with great power comes great responsibility. Why are we, like, if I want everyone in Worcester to be better and safer and happier, and he's the most powerful man in the city, why am I constantly against him? Pointing that out is something that, like, he's supposed to be, like, if he cares about people, this should bother him. And, right, you know, it gets to a point where he's demonstrating that it bothers him more that I'm publicly having these conversations than that he is harmful.
These poor politicians, they just want to be liked so badly.
Yeah, they're in for a bad time with that.
And in this system, it just breeds this, like, loathsome, like, just endless need for validation from the worst people that will validate them, you know. And it's just like, damn, if you weren't doing such harm, I'd almost feel bad for you. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I do have a little empathy. You were a little baby one time, like, but like I was too, and I've been done crummy shit. So like, we all have to like come to the light that we're not all perfect. But
You know
Jesus
what? Now that I
Christ,
think about it that way, I've done shit I'm not proud of. I've
sure,
done shit I'm ashamed of. I haven't caused homelessness to increase in a city by
true.
drastic percentages.
I
I
mean,
have.
I haven't systemically harmed anybody. I've definitely harmed individual people's self-esteem, like by being a selfish prick in my life. But like, I've never been such a selfish prick that other people don't get health care. Like, okay, cool. I guess.
Yeah.
Wow, bar is in hell for us white bros.
City manager should be held to a higher standard. So should all of these officials. And
Right.
I don't think people care. And I think that's kind of why it's been important to do this, is to draw the names to the. He once tried to do a spiel. Eric Batista did about focusing on the issues, not the people.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. Is like he wants to talk about the problems and not the people perpetuating the problems, while
Right.
they continue perpetuating the problems.
Well,
And
it's semantics, because right, it's like, well, if it's about the people, which people are you talking about? Are you talking about the people you want to protect or the citizenry?
yeah.
It's funny. It's all semantics, and I think they're just. I think there's a lot of people out there, smarter people than me, have always just reminded me when I'm having moments of despair. Just there's a lot of people out there just faking it, man. They don't know what the hell they're doing, and
It's true.
they're stumbling along blind. And you're thinking a lot about this a lot more than most people, and you're like, that's like somehow reassuring and also terrifying.
So terrifying.
It's like, okay, cool. Well, I guess that gives me an out, but damn. That doesn't comfort me too much. But bigger dummies than you, as somebody once said. And unfortunately, yeah, I don't, other than money, that's why the whole idea of defining ourselves on this economic system is fucking stupid. It's like, whether you call yourself communist, which I am, but like, if you're focusing only on the economy, then you're not thinking about people. You're not thinking about the world. You're not thinking about the ecosystem, the environment.
I mean, that's kind of part of how I've adjusted so much in dealing with people online. Is everyone is effectively trying to compare themselves to. They're deriving their not everyone, but most people.
It's a common thing. I know. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Are trying to derive their own self-worth by comparing themselves to others under capitalism, which is such a stupid and horrible metric. But it's also the primary one for most people, it seems, which is like how they justify, that results in they're just doing their job mentality. So as well as the, putting their own survival under capitalism, that's how they end up caring about property instead of people.
Mm-hmm. And part of it is we have been indoctrinated. I mean, when they talk about indoctrination, damn, like talk about being indoctrinated. I pledge allegiance. I went to Catholic school too, so I was double indoctrinated, and I was a Boy Scout, triple. I was in the Hitler Youth, man. Like, I that's why I laugh when like I see these little Patriot Front guys. It's like, you guys just wish the Boy Scout troop was still together, man. Like.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is people are just seeking acceptance in community. So all they really need is to get rid of everyone who doesn't think like them and everyone who doesn't accept them the way they are. And then they have exactly what they think they're looking for.
Which is exactly what we're all looking for, ironically. Acceptance in community.
Yeah, acceptance in community.
They're going about a very weird way, a very dark, evil way. But like, yeah, it is funny. That's why I guess a lot of people say, like, when you're doing politics, you got to do kitchen table. But I'm like, I don't know. We have to have a broader sense of what society is. We can't just talk about our base needs. We can't talk just about egg prices and gasoline prices. What is the cost of using all this gasoline? What is the cost of mass producing these eggs? What's the drawback? Which I'm a food person, so like I could argue it's decentral. My argument is always going to be decentralization.
Yes, decentralizing and empowering individual communities and people, and everything will work better. And trying to consolidate that power.
Right. Well, that's the USDA is one of the biggest thugs in the world. Like, people say they're afraid of, the IRS. I'm more afraid of the USDA, man. I worked in meat, so I'm like, now I'm in fish, and I see how the different industries are regulated, and it's fascinating. The fish industry is definitely more the Wild West because the product just turns so fast. Like you can't really do what you do like you do with meat. The product just turns over so quick. Or
That makes sense.
not the product. I shouldn't say it like that. The animal that died for us to have sustenance. You know, the shelf life is a lot different than an animal, like a land creature. So, it's just fascinating, and I could talk all day about that. But
No, it makes sense. I thought about like how botanists, their inventory is different because like they have to plan for it to be grown, and then they also have to plan for it to be, in a fridge for whatever. It's there's it's like that, but way worse.
Right. Yeah, and the food industry is like kind of fucked up. Like it is my life, but like when you take a step back, you're like, oh damn, where somebody is making a profit, no matter what company I work for. Like I worked for a company. There's only a few times where I've worked for like an independent contractor of some kind or a really small business. It's only been a handful of times, and over 20 years. And the reality is like that's somebody, not a restaurant because you're selling a service, but like you own a grocery store and you're turning a profit and you're paying out investors for over food. And you're also likely underpaying and exploiting the labor that created the food. Like, I worked at a small time butcher shop. Listen to this shit, right? Small time butcher shop. We worked with local farms. You know, most of these farms were family run. They were part-time gigs. Like they had a day job and then they did the farm on the weekend and on their vacations. And it was just something they were keeping alive. And so customers be like, why is it so much more expensive than Big Y? It's like, okay, so I'm just going to break it down because it's actually really simple for you in this scenario. I buy directly from the farmer. The only place we can cut costs would be breaking the law because we wouldn't be using a USDA facility. And I don't think you want us just slaughtering animals willy-nilly. And I don't think you trust us like that. So you kind of like that reassurance of having USDA, which is a whole tax on top of things and a whole rigmarole because there's only so many of them. You have to send the animals 150 miles this way to come back 90 miles. Anyways, I would go, so here's the deal. I could go to the farmer and say, hey man, you can't pay your brother who helps you out on the weekends, so I can bring the cost down for my customer. Or I can go to my dishwasher and say, you want to work for free? Like it's as simple as an economy as it can get, and that really opened people's eyes.
So I'm taking a class for creating a co-op, and it's unfortunately way more complicated than
very complicated
running a business, and I don't know how it could possibly work with the level of supply chain required in some of the food industry.
It's hard, and you have to. I've been a part of things on small scale. It's basically impossible. Like on a small scale, you have to do it on a large enough scale. And then when you have a large enough scale, like we have two co-ops in Northampton and East Hampton. They're the same co-op, the River Valley Co-op. And they're great, right? But they have a lot of political issues. Like they're having a split between their co-op base and within their staff about selling Israeli products and BDSing it. And like all these people mostly agree, but there's like a faction of Zionists, both in the staff and in the co-op membership base. And it's like causing a lot more problems. And it's nothing like dramatic or nuclear, but it's like there's going to be fallout 5 years from now because now people are going to be questioning if I want to work with these people now because we just see fundamentally different values. So like when you branch out big enough to have two stores and probably 100 employees and I don't know 1,000 customers. I have no idea what their customer base is, but I just think about it. It's like it does become a little untenable, especially in the imperial core, where people's politics are getting really loud.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I could see that being a significant issue, and that's on the list of reasons I'm not anywhere close to starting a co-op. Like I don't, creating the series of shared values and community agreements at the very beginning is an untenable project.
At this moment, I think there's hope. I think I have to believe the things I've survived in my personal life. I have to believe there's a way that we can have something better. Maybe I'll be dead, but like I have to. Like, there's no point in me not believing in that. Like, it's tough right now. Like people are struggling to communicate. People are burnt out, overwhelmed, scared. Like, dude, we're still in a pandemic. Like I know it's over for a lot of people, but Yeah, it's an endemic stage. I don't know. I shouldn't say anything. I'm guessing it's gonna be an endemic stage at some point, right? This,
Yeah.
so it's just people are their bodies are maxed out.
Yep.
And it's showing why. Like even our enemies, they're showing their tiredness.
Yeah. Yeah. No, in a lot of different ways, they really are.
Like Elon's just out there doing Nazi salutes.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck. Like
It's like he's like not even. It's like he's not even hiding it. Like no, everybody's just so burnt out they're not even hiding it anymore,
Well, I
or
don't
even
think that's a
pretending.
burned up thing. I think that's the opposite. They're all empowered, thinking that now it's okay.
Oh well, that's a good point. Well, we're doing a real good half glass, glass half full, glass half empty,
Yes.
back and forth now. So, David, I want to say I would love to have you back on the show
Sounds
at
good.
some point. You're always welcome, and especially like short notice. But we're not done yet. I would like you to shout out those organizations you mentioned earlier.
Sure. Okay. So Luce is they're effectively a pro-immigration advocacy group. The Massachusetts Bail Fund, who systematically fight the nature of minor charges being a reason for people not to participate in activism. If instead, so you're not, as well as making it so like a charge doesn't ruin your life by also taking away your career and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that they minimize the amount of time that people are in jail for nonviolent crimes, and so that's a great organization.
And because they can't pay
Yeah, exactly.
Like
if you don't have 40 bucks to get out of jail, you're stuck in there for the night, and that's a poor people tax. That's fucking stupid on so many levels.
Yeah, but and this could apply to a parking ticket, to anything. Like like what you were saying earlier about the cops, like, oh, we'll figure this out later in the courts. Like rich people get to do that. We don't get to do that shit, because figuring it out later in the courts means waiting for a court date for a clogged up court system because there's so many people in here for fucking nothing.
Yep.
And then you're prioritizing petty crime, whatever the fuck that means, but letting wage theft go unnoticed, and in fact encouraged, because Walmart could just subsidize their employees with fucking SNAP benefits and tell them how to do it. Anyways, please, this is really important. Mass Bail Fund does good work. I know they're out here in out in the Western Mass and Berkshire's space too, so that applies to all over Massachusetts.
Yeah, and then lastly, I've finally accepted I'm going to be doing my own blog, which is beautisticaboutit.com.
Okay, beautisticaboutit.com. And that will be what kind of?
Currently, that's mostly the Worcester stuff I've been doing. But I'm
like daily content, video, like what's the
good question? I don't think I'm going to host a podcast from there, but I do think it's going to be once or twice a week, some video, hopefully mostly text. No promises on consistency, but I'm going to be trying to release informational and training based content to help people understand why I do what I do, see what I've done, and also do some of what I've done.
And speaking for the podcasting world, we don't need any more podcasts. You are one. You can always utilize this platform, so don't worry about that. Not everybody has to be a one size fits all shop. Like I don't write. Some like people in my life have encouraged me to write. It's just it doesn't give me the. It feels like work to me, and I feel like you shouldn't do something if it feels not work, but it feels like. Yeah, and I don't love it. I love talking, so like. I grew up on sports talk. that's my or villain origin story. I grew up on sports talk radio, and so that's kind of why I'm like, well, I could do that. Like I can facilitate a conversation, but I don't want to have any fancy editing or anything. I don't want to be a 2-minute TikTok or a 10-minute YouTube show. That's a lot of work, like a lot for me. So other people come second nature. Like I can do the basics and I just keep it moving. But I say the name of the website again.
Beautisticaboutit.com.
Beautisticaboutit.com. And it's just going to be you, or are there going to be collaborations, or?
It'll probably be just be me. Right now it's just been my Substack. It's all currently Worcester politics. But it's not. I mean, it's about Worcester, but it's not like everything I'm writing about Worcester it applies to elsewhere. And I've been trying to kind of frame it from more talking about the systemic issues. But yeah, it's a. I don't know. It's going to be a variety of content. Podcast I used to run was called "What Could Possibly Go Wrong," and there's a chance I'm bringing that back.
That's awesome. That's a great name. What could possibly go wrong? That's great. I love that. So beautisticaboutit.com.
Yep. And I'll send you the links to the videos I was referring to earlier as well. So if your audience,
I'll put that in the show notes. So everybody, anything like the organizations you just mentioned, I have some links I'll put in the show notes, and then these YouTube links will also be in the show notes. As always, you can go to www.theweedout.com. If you want to reach out to us, email theweedout@gmail.com, or follow us on social media. More active on the Twitter, but check the Instagram pretty frequently. Make sure that the DMs. So if you need any tips, anything like that, any show ideas or critiques, criticisms, etc., feel free to reach out. I may ignore you if I don't like your criticism. It's my show, goddammit. No, I'm just kidding. I take everybody's feedback very seriously. For Joanna, she says hello everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. She's busy with some local business in her town. We'll talk about that more later. Montague and her hometown Pittsfield have been a fucking mess. Today we talked about Worcester, and that's just one little soap opera. I mean, I should probably like calling it a soap opera. One more horror story. And David, I would love to hear from you again, and look forward to seeing what you pop up on beautistic.com. And thank you again for joining us.
Be autistic about it.
Beautisticaboutit.com. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I will make sure to get that right. Say that again.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Anytime. And so everybody listening at home, everybody take care and keep weeding out the bullshit.